What's up guys, my name is Liam and today we're going to be talking about the WAIZOWL Fukurou gaming mousepad. I've been a huge fan of all the products that they've been releasing so far, but is that going to be the case of this mousepad? And more importantly, is it going to be the perfect gaming mousepad for you? Let's check it out. Before we get started, I did want to let you know this was sent out to me by MetKeys. However, everything you'll be hearing in this video today is going to be my own words and my own opinions. This was shipped out and arrived to my front door in a cardboard box. And inside that cardboard box, as you can see here, it does come flat packed. Here's what the front looks like. And here is a look in the back. So pretty cool. It does come with this packaging in case you wanted to store it or travel with it without having to worry about damaging the mousepad. The artwork and overall appearance is just absolutely stunning. The image on here looks incredibly sharp. It even has some blur on the sides, like there's some type of depth blur from a focal lens camera, which is just a really cool effect. And I feel like the colors on this really pop and they look amazing. The size comes in as standard dimensions for the most part. It is 490 millimeters in width by 420 millimeters in height, and it does have a 3.5 millimeters in thickness. This micro hexagon IPU base and really standard stuff that's coming out on a lot of these mouse pads. It feels incredibly sticky, works great, stuck to my desk perfectly, and I didn't have any issues with this moving around on me as I had it seated. The stitching is about the same level as the actual surface itself, and it is kind of a thicker style of a stitching. I did notice that when I was gaming on it from time to time, if my hand slid down to the bottom of the mouse pad, I could slightly feel it rubbing against the palm of my hand, but nothing that seemed to be too much of an issue for me. And when I adjusted my hand, I didn't notice it very much at all. And the overall plushness coming in at 3.5 millimeters, it is plush, but I don't feel like it's too spongy or anything like that to ever felt like my mouse was sinking in. So I do kind of feel like it has a good balance of being a little bit firm, but it does have some give and some play to it when you actually do push the mouse into it, and it does allow for some additional control. But I would say overall the feeling falls in line with a lot of the other similar IPU based mouse pads that are currently on the market that are also at 3.5 millimeters. The surface is incredibly smooth, and it's pretty close to something like the Lamzu Energon as far as the overall feeling goes. I do feel like for whatever reason the Lamzu Energon, it does feel just a little bit softer or a little bit smoother, but the overall feeling when you're rubbing your arm across it, you don't really feel any type of a texture. It just is overall a buttery smooth feeling. I'm generally not somebody that prefers to use arm sleeves, especially on a surface that's as smooth as this, but I was testing it out, and these Pulsar arm sleeves, they work flawlessly on here. Really smooth glide and great experience overall. So if you do prefer to use a sleeve for whatever reason, whether it's your elbow rubbing on your desk or anything like that, it does work out very well on this pad. And though the surface does feel really similar to the Lamzu Energon, I do feel like it has pretty different characteristics overall. This is advertised as a speed pad, but through my experience and all my testing, I did find that it does kind of fall in line, similar to something more similar to some of the control pads out there. But I did find that the characteristics were kind of the same all across the board, depending on what type of skates you're using, whether it's the bigger skates, if you're using smaller dot skates or something like that. With these Tiger Ice skates on here, it does have a really smooth and quick glide once you get up and going. But again, you do notice a great sense of control there and almost a little bit more of a muddiness type of a feeling. When you're doing the micro adjustments coming back and forth, you can feel a little bit more of tugging than on something like the LGG Gaming Gear Saturn Pro, for example. And overall, I just kind of feel like it does feel a bit slower and give you a little bit more control properties and characteristics. But aside from it having a little bit of a slower static friction, I do feel like the overall dynamic friction, once you actually do get up and moving, it does have a pretty quick glide across the board. But when you do have smaller skates, they do seem to go just a little bit further and have a little bit less of both the dynamic and the static friction. I do not believe that this is an actual coated surface, but it was advertised that the actual threads in the construction that they used to create this pad, that they are waterproof. And I did test that out and it seemed to work pretty well. And when comparing the WAIZOWL to the LGG Gaming Gear Saturn Pro, this is the newer version, 3.5 millimeters. Going back and forth between these two surfaces, I definitely did notice a difference where, like I said, the WAIZOWL, it just feels a little bit muddier. When you do come over to the LGG Gaming Gear Saturn Pro, it does feel a bit quicker on the glide. So you can see there, it looks like there's a little bit more control and stopping power to where the Saturn Pro just feels a little bit faster and a little bit more slipperier in the micro adjustments. Either way, both these pads, they don't feel like they're that far apart from one another in the overall performance. So let's go ahead and drop the glide test between the WAIZOWL Fukurou and the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn Pro. Next up, when comparing the Fukurou to the GSR II, the overall speed and performance of these two pads actually feel pretty similar to one another. At the time I've been using the WAIZOWL, it does feel like it is a bit muddier. So when you are getting down and making the micro adjustments, again, this does feel a little bit muddier and you do get a little bit more tug. However, the overall dynamic friction between both of these as you're using them, they do feel pretty similar in speed to each other. And I did kind of feel like at times the GSR II in certain situations, it did feel just a little bit quicker. But as I was doing the glide test, they seemed to align and be very similar to one another. So let's go ahead and drop the glide test between the Fukurou and the GSR II. Alright, so that about wraps things up on my overall experience with the WAIZOWL Fukurou. This is coming in priced at $39.99. I do feel like that's a pretty fair price considering the amount of value and great quality that you do get. Not only does this pad look great, but like I said, with all my trials with testing it, it felt really consistent across the board. No matter what type of skates I was using or throwing at it, I felt like I always had a really good idea and understanding of exactly the type of performance that I could expect out of it. I personally have really liked the OGM Pro, and I do feel like with this mouse pad that they have released another hit. Alright guys, so if you have any questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know down in the comments below. If you are interested in picking this up, I have left affiliate links down in the description below if you're interested in supporting the channel. If you've enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.